You're listening to the Business Mike podcast. Amazing interviews with entrepreneurs and industry thought leaders.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Mike podcast. And joining us for the second time is Dr. Emmanuel. Dr. Emmanuel, welcome back. And for those who didn't watch the very first episode where we had you, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so my name is Emmanuel Manyonganise, born and bred in Zimbabwe. So currently I'm a customer experience advisor and I have 20 years of experience in customer experience strategy, design, implementation across industries, telecommunications, banking, and also consulting, and also across geographies. I've worked in 4 continents. And CX is near and dear to my heart, and that's why we're having this topic here. I currently work in Saudi Arabia.
Right, and the reason why you came back is because the first time we had a podcast interview with yourself, we touched on hyper-personalization, but we only scratched the surface. And so I felt that having you back on to go deeper into this topic, perhaps that might help us appreciate what this is in more detail. And to start off, I wanted to find out from you, what is the difference between personalization and hyper-personalization?
Yes, I remember in the first podcast we did, what we talked about at the time was that we were talking about how critical, how essential, or imperative personalization is in order to be able to deliver exceptional customer experiences. And then we said, we needed to dig a little bit deeper into personalization and hyper-personalization. So I think the best way to answer your question is I will go straight into what I kind of have as a definition of hyper-personalization. And then after that, I can compare that to the current personalization, or you could say to the traditional personalization. So the best way to think about hyper-personalization is that ability to engage customers at an individual level in a very unique, in a very specific way, in a very also way that is related to the current situation. So there are a few things in there, so I'm going to try to unpack that a little bit. So the first thing I said was to engage. And if you look at it, engaging is talking about any kind of interaction with a customer, right? If you look at the customer journey from awareness, to joining, to use the services, to living. So engaging talks about providing personalization at any part of that journey. Now, if you go back to the traditional personalization, you will see that in most cases is the pre-purchasing journey of the customer. It's sales and marketing. Right. So if you Google personalization, for example, you will see words like offers, products, and recommendations. So hyper-personalization is now referring to a holistic view of the customer at any part of the journey, whereas traditional personalization is mostly concerned about the pre-purchasing part of the journey. Now, the second thing I mentioned was engaging a customer at an individual level, right? That's hyper-personalization. If you go back to the traditional personalization, it's more on a group level. We talk about segmentation. We talk about personas. So that's, a group of people with shared characteristics such as age and gender and sex. So you're doing personalization on a group level, hyper-personalization at an individual level. And then the third thing I talked about was something that's unique and specific to their current situation. So hyper-personalization talks about context. So it's bringing in context here. It's not just, the characteristics of a person. It's looking at the intent and the emotions and the context of the situation, real time, right? So hyper-personalization allows you to give different experiences to the same customer, maybe in the same shop, maybe buying the same thing, but because of the timing or because of the context, hyper-personalization allows you to give you that kind of differentiation in terms of the experiences. So so those are quite a few things that makes it different, hyper-personalization to traditional personalization. There are a few more things we can talk about, but we can do that some other time.
Yeah, and I love what you said there about that particular scenario or when hyper-personalization can take place. And that got me wondering, are there different levels or layers to this hyper-personalization? Is it something that where we can drill down in how it is implemented or effected?
Yes, so there are multiple frameworks, or maybe you can call them multiple ways of looking at it. I have heard of a simple framework which talks about hyper-personalization reactively, which is basically means you are reacting to a customer's request and you are able to personalize your answer, but you are reacting. And then the other part of it is proactively, which is more of predicting the customer's needs, and then being able to meet them proactively. So that's one framework where you've got reactive and proactive. Another framework I have heard about, it's really referring to the size or the type of the group at the level at which you're doing personalization. So again, it's personalization by segments. So if you took telecommunications, for example, you have consumers, and then you have enterprise, and you have governments. So you can personalize at that level. And if you want to do a lower level, you can even just look at consumers only. You can have mass segment, you can have maybe high value segment, and then you can have maybe private customers. Again, you can personalize at different levels. And then you can then look at another level whereby then you start maybe using personas again, and then personalize at that level, shared characteristics, maybe even within a specific segment in consumer, those who have a shared characteristics, more data points, you can personalize at that level. And then hyper-personalization then becomes a one-to-one personalization. So you can look at that as a framework where you're saying one to everyone. So if you're looking, for example, in communications, same message to everyone, that's level one. And then one message to many, to groups of many, that's level two. And then maybe one message to some. So again, that's a smaller group. And then one message to a few, that's a much, much smaller group with more data points. And then one to one. So those are levels. But my favorite one, the one I think we should really apply, it's about personalization based on the knowledge. How deep do we know the customer, right? So if I just know your name, I'll just say, hey, Daud, how are you doing? So I know your name, but I know very little more about you. So I cannot really personalize that much. If I know your name and I know that you're a male of a certain age, I can personalize, but I only know you so much to personalize, right? So the deeper I know you, the more I can personalize it. So that's my favorite way of looking at different levels of personalization. So you have the basic one, like the name. And then the second one is level one, where it's maybe really just recommending offers and products. And then another level after that would be where we're looking at not just products and services, but also support. Yeah, I'm providing support in a very hyper-personalized level. And then from there, we start looking at predicting customers' behavior, understanding their needs, and being able to meet them proactively before they even raise an issue or before they even ask you what they want. So that's the level that's really, really at the top. And I think looking at it that way, it allows you maybe as an organization to see where you are in terms of maturity from a personalization perspective, and then being able to say, this is where we are right now, and we want to be able to reach to that one-to-one where we are looking at a customer at an individual level in a specific and unique way to their current situation.
Yeah, I love what you've said there. And what stood out for me in particular was when you mentioned the maturity of personalization. Now, I'm used to hearing people talking about the maturity of customer experience and things like that. But maturity of personalization is quite something unique to me. And that makes me think that in order for you to become more and more sophisticated with your personalization, ideally you need to have some sort of technology behind your execution. So what are some of the tools that you would recommend or that you believe can aid us in delivering a hyper-personalized customer experience for our customers?
Okay, so straight to the point, AI machine learning, they are at the heart of hyper-personalization. But I just want to take a step back before I answer your question, that while technology brings a lot of benefits to it, it is actually to provide hyper-personalization without technology, right? So I can give you an example of my local cafe around the corner. So I go there once a week. They could say, hi, Emmanuel, how are you doing? Because they know me. I'll reply back to them, and then they'll know what is my favorite table. They'll take me there. And I order pretty much the same thing most of the times. They'll give me that. And in some cases, if I'm really busy, if I'm working, they don't interrupt me. They don't disrupt me. In some cases, if I'm there and I look like I'm waiting for a friend, they come and talk to me. How's been your week? So that's all part of hyper-personalization, and there is no technology there, right? But as you rightly said, technology brings a lot of benefits. And I believe that its real impact is going to be when we use technology to help human beings to deliver exceptional customer experiences. And those technologies, to your question, again, number one, AI and machine learning. Why AI and machine learning? We know that, I'm going to put a disclaimer here, AI is smarter than human beings. Like I can explain the conditions for it being smarter. AI can be faster than human beings. AI might not have biases. Of course, it might have biases which are built in, but it could deliver the same experiences consistently all the time. So AI is at the heart of hyper-personalization. The second thing I want to highlight is data, right? So you need a data culture. You need an organization which data is king. The whole organization is putting data in a centralized platform where all the different departments have access to that data, right? It can even be automated, right? So that as soon as data is generated, it goes into one central place. So that when we are doing marketing or sales or we're handling complaints, we're using the same data. If it's not centralized, you could have the sales team maybe selling a product only because the customer does not have a product. At the same time, the marketing team is pushing a certain product because of the customer's preferences. The customer value management team is looking at the customer and saying, this customer, we need him to spend more. So let's make him spend more. None of these organizations could be looking at the customer complaints. Maybe the customer actually has a complaint specific to that product. So if you have that data in the same place where complaints and preferences and products are in one place, you can be able to say, you know what, for this customer, we need to nurture the relationship instead of pushing a product. So data is number two. Number three, advanced analytics, which I'm not going to elaborate on, but we can talk about it some other time. Advanced analytics, which allows us to understand what is going on. For example, if you run a campaign, what is going on? How did the campaign go? And then to be able to say, why did the campaign go in this way, in the way it did? So I work for a bank right now. We could launch a new credit card. So we want to know, why did a specific maybe group of people buy the credit card, right? So how many credit cards did we sell? Why did we sell those? Why did certain people buy those? And then the next question is, how do we make sure that next time before we run a campaign, we do the right thing? So this is now using prescriptive analysis. So that's advanced analytics that you need. The third thing with technology is memory, right? So I love this because if you think about human beings, the only way you can offer a human being the best experience, hyper-personalized experience, is when you really know them well enough. And part of it is knowing them, knowing their history, right? I know Dawood, I know what he did last week, or I know what he did last year, or what he did 2 minutes ago, that history, right? And I know him very well, I understand him, and because of that, I can be able to offer him something that I know he will like. So it's that ability to have memory, to remember what customers are doing or have done either 2 minutes ago, 2 weeks ago, or 2 years ago. And that capability, I think, is really critical. And the fourth thing is omni-channel experience, right? We want the customer to have the same experience in our digital channels or in a branch, if you're a bank or a telco, for example, or also with the call center. We want that experience to be consistent across. So those are some of the capabilities that are required to deliver a hyper-personalized experience.
Yeah, no, you've said quite a bit there. And I feel like this is one of those topics which can be discussed for an entire day. You can even have a seminar on this particular topic. And just in the interest of time, I wanted to zero down on one particular area. You've talked about quite a number of things that the technology can do. But before that, you mentioned that story of the cafe where the personal touch without the influence of technology enhanced your particular experience. So I want to know how we can bridge this gap, the gap that we have between human to human interaction and also AI to human interaction in a way that does not compromise on the experience of our users, and also how that can have an influence when you're looking at something that's being executed at scale.
Right. So that's a very, very good question. And to be honest with you, I think it's something that people are still looking at. And in a way, when I was thinking about it, when you were talking about it, one part of me was saying, do we need to bridge the gap? Maybe we do not need to bridge the gap. Maybe what we need to look at is what are the key strengths of AI or technology, as I mentioned earlier, and what are the key strengths of human beings, and how do we, find that sweet spot where we get the best on the situation or based on the scenario that we apply human beings or technology. But again, I think my answer will have to be, and I think the answer to that question, like what is the most appropriate maybe tool to use, a human being or a machine, I think that answer could actually change from a day-to-day basis. And again, depending on the context, right? I've been talking to a few people about this, and it's quite interesting. I get very different answers when I ask to people, would you rather use technology or would you rather talk to a person? And some people are like, I want to talk to a person. I want to make sure that he understands my questions and is going to answer me as an individual. And some people say, I don't want to talk to a person. I just want, if there's a machine, I want to do it quickly. And it will just, as long as it does what I'm asking, I'm happy with that. So the answer to your question, I guess for me, is, again, I believe if we have technology enabled or technology powered solution that's being delivered by a human being, I think that would be really amazing. I think I've got some examples where you have maybe a tool that is able to sense the sentiment, the tone or the voice of a customer. So I'm talking about a call center here. So an agent in a call center, responding to a customer. So if we have a tool that can sense the voice of the customer, they can sense that the customer is getting frustrated, or the customer is getting angry, or is getting confused, and it can alert the agent to say, maybe you need to de-escalate here. Maybe you need to be more calm, and the agent will be able to then control the situation being held by technology, and yet they're delivering that sort of experience that we need. And from a human being's perspective, I believe there are some strengths that technology cannot emulate yet. Although some people can argue to say whatever human being can do, technology can do. But I still believe that human beings, they are able to adjust their understanding based on more information, right? If I tell you I'm stuck, and then you could say, where are you stuck? Say I'm in Russia, and then you immediately know that, oh yeah, it's probably very cold in Russia at this time. And then I'll say, yeah, but my credit card is not working. I need your help. And then you, as a human being, you're able to keep adjusting your understanding, and then be able to say, you know what, I might even break the rules here because I'm not allowed to do something on your account. But because you're in Russia, it's cold, you are stuck, I'm gonna do this for you. I think human beings can be also more empathetic. There are different levels of being empathetic. It's not just like I understand how you feel, but it's also saying I feel how you feel. Human beings can do that. But the third level of empathy is when you say, you know what, I feel how you feel and I'm willing to help you. And that's something that I think human being can still do. And technology, I don't think it can emulate that yet. And again, there's another thing of context, that human beings can understand the context better in some ways, which I think technology cannot do. And so if you look at those things about, the strengths or the things that I think human beings can do better than technology. And then if you go back to what we talked about, technology being smarter and faster and being consistent, what we really want is a combination of the two to provide the exceptional experiences.
Yeah, when I heard you saying all that, I was just imagining a restaurant where, very similar to the example you gave, where two people walk in and they're given hyper-personalized customer experience, in the sense that perhaps this restaurant is technologically advanced, whereby I just walk in and place my order on a tablet or something like that. I don't want to talk to people, and I'm served. And I press a button and food is brought to me. I don't have to engage anyone. But the same restaurant, someone walks in and they're greeted by a waiter, and they're made feel welcome, because that's their preference. And so that for me is an example, based on everything you've discussed there, of how one entity can execute hyper-personalization for different customers they have.
Exactly. And the beauty part of it is that it has to be in the perception of the customer, right? If we go back to that conversation about traditional personalization, where it's about based on static data, it's based on inside-out view, where we think this is what the customer might want. That's traditional personalization. Hyper-personalization is about how the customer sees it. It's my perception as a customer. And as you rightly said, we're actually delivering very great experience, one using technology, the other one using a person and stuff. So yeah, that's a very good example to actually explain that.
So as we wind up, actually, now that I've started the ball rolling with that example, maybe you can share with us a few other examples that you've come across or experienced yourself regarding hyper-personalization.
Experiencing myself, those currently are hard to come by, hyper-personalized experiences. I have been privileged to witness, at least anyway, and read some scenarios where I thought, wow, this is really amazing. One of them is a fitness tool. So there's a gym, they have this tool which collects a member's data. So it collects your goals that you're trying to reach as when you come to the gym. It collects your diet. It collects the exercises you've been doing in the past and how you've been performing. It collects the music you listen to, and using that, they do some serious analysis with all that data, and then they are able to tailor specific exercises for you, and using the music that you like, and also, as you become better, if you train more, your performance changes or your goals changes. The exercise that they also sort of assign to the member changes, and that's really amazing because it keeps changing, and you find that there is no same sort of exercise to two people, right? Because two people cannot be exactly the same in all those things. So it's really hyper personalized because it's very, very specific to one person. And it's also based on the current situation of that person, right? If they're performing well, the exercises change as well. So that's one example, which is in fitness. Another example is in health, where again it's a tool that's collecting all the data about a patient, maybe their history, their medical history, but also their diet and also how much they exercise. And then monitoring your body. And when anything changes, they're using that data. They're analyzing. They're analyzing your, what's going on with you and your body and your data. And based on that, the tool can actually suggest that you might need to exercise more. You might need to go and see a doctor. You might need to take more vitamin D, for example. So again, it's very hyper-personalized because it's using very, very specific data about the customer, about the patient. It's using history. It's using behavior. It's using everything that we have talked about in terms of needing a hyper-personalized experience. So those are some examples I have. Some people have talked about Spotify as well, that it's actually very highly personalized because it's really music that you like, and depending on your mood and on the time of the day, they're able to play the songs that you like. Those are some examples that are going on. But I think a lot of it right now is being developed. Organizations are trying to develop these hyper-personalized experiences, which I understand that, there are challenges to do that, technological challenges to do that. Also, the skills to do that are still, not readily available. But I'm looking forward to that. So for me, that's when I'm looking into the future, that's what I want to see. I want to see organizations being able to provide that level of hyper-personalization, which is similar to human, right? When I see you, the way I address you, or if I have to give you a birthday present, it really has to be hyper-personalized because I have to know your date of birth. I have to know what you like. I have to know where you are. I have to know how to get it to you. That's the kind of thing that I'm looking forward to organizations being able to provide that kind of personalization.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we all look forward to. And as you're sharing those examples, I was thinking about a family where you have children and two spouses, whereby they talk to each other in different ways. They know when they're angry, they know when to text, when to talk, and things. So that's, in a very simplified way, a form of hyper-personalization and how you engage each individual within your household. So I think as organizations, we should borrow a leaf from that and try and see how we can build relationships with our customers in that way. And thereby, we'll obviously have very happy customers everywhere we turn and look. Dr. Emmanuel Manyonganise, I'm so happy that you've come back. And this topic, for me, I'm glad we've touched it, although I feel, once again, we've just scratched the surface. This feels like a very heavy topic, which we can discuss for days and days. But because of the time, we'll have to end it here. But once again, any parting words to our audience, and how can they connect with you? How can they learn more about what you do, and where can they find you on the internet?
I think LinkedIn is the easiest way to get in touch with me. I always respond. Parting words for me, it's the message is act. Act on it. Try. If it doesn't work, then you improve it. And you try again, and then you make it better. So have a curious mind and act on it.
All right. Very wise words indeed, Dr. Emmanuel. Thank you so much once again for sharing with us all these interesting points and views about customer experience, and today particular personalization. I know I'll have you again on the show, and hopefully next time we shall be having this conversation as the Customer Experience Association of Uganda, where we have our fellow professionals joining in. So thank you once again, Dr. Emmanuel, and looking forward to chatting again soon.
It's my pleasure, and thank you, Dale.